Hello, good morning, people trickling in. We'll give people a couple of minutes to join. We're just at 11 o'clock now. I think we had maybe 6 individuals registered for today, so it'll be a small group. But I don't. Maybe Heidi, you can let me know if you see that everybody that's registered has joined.
We are missing one person, but we actually have 6 in total because someone from our team has also joined as a guest.
Okay. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning, so I'll keep going. But if I drop off, then Shelley from GHD is here to take over moderation. My computer just seems to be hanging a lot. Freeze this morning. So let's get started. So my name's Katrina McCullough. I am with GHD consultant that Niagara Region is working with for this waste management strategic plan. And I'll be moderating the Q&A at the end. So we've got, in terms of the format for today, we have a presentation that GHD is going to be delivering, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. We've also got poll questions throughout, just to get you thinking about the strategic plan and what we're going to be doing. And we are recording today. You are muted and your cameras are off right now. There is a Q&A function. You should see a Q&A button. So if you have questions, feel free to drop your questions in there. Because it's a small group, we'll also have the opportunity at the end just to raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute you. So hopefully generating lots of good discussion today. So I think with that, I am going to turn it over to Jennifer from the region to start us off.
Thank you, Katrina. Before we get started, let's acknowledge that Niagara Region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Ondoroq, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island who live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands upon which we live. We are thankful to be able to work and live in these territories, and we thank the generations of Indigenous people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years and continue to do so, providing leadership and inspiration for our work. As we share information today, we encourage you to reflect on how we can honor our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities through the work we do building a more sustainable future. So we're happy to be here today with our project partner GHD to share this exciting news. This is our first waste management strategic plan. We've retained GHD to prepare the strategic plan, and they have another consultant working with them, Municipal View. My name is Jennifer Mazurek. I'm the Waste Management Program Manager at Niagara Region for Planning and Policy, and I am the project manager of this 25-year Waste Management Strategic Plan. Presenting today from GHD, we have Blair Schonecker, and Katrina will be our moderator. And today we will be providing an introduction to this plan. So we are at the beginning of the process. You'll have the opportunity to provide feedback, and that will help us shape the strategy. Keep in mind that today's presentation is high level, and we will be coming back to you later this year where you'll have an opportunity to provide feedback on specific recommendations for the plan. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Blair.
Great. Thanks very much, Jennifer. Appreciate it. As mentioned, I'm Blair Schonecker. I'm a senior waste and environmental planner with GHD, and I'll be taking you through the presentation with some of my colleagues, Katrina and Shelley, as well as Niagara Region on the call as well. So from an agenda perspective, today what we want to talk about is, why Niagara Region is preparing the waste management strategic plan. And we're also going to look at providing an overview of the current waste management system. What's our baseline that we're working with in order to then develop some of the potential changes in the plan that will come. We're going to give you a little bit of that sneak peek on what the waste management strategic plan could look like. We'll talk about process and timelines, as Jennifer just mentioned. We're early on, beginning stages, so lots of work to come, and lots of opportunity to re-engage on the plan. And then we're also going to give the audience here on this call some time to answer live poll questions. And we'll have a Q&A session really to tease out any of your suggestions and comments and questions that you may have, in order to make sure that the waste management strategic plan is reflective of your needs, the broader stakeholder needs, and the vision for the future of the waste management system in Niagara Region. So with that, we're going to jump over to our first poll question.
Yeah, so before Blair goes any further, we just want to learn a little bit more about the people who are on the folks that are on this call. So Heidi's going to launch a poll. If you can just describe how you interact with the Niagara Region Waste Management System. This is specifically the question, the options here are specifically geared towards the IC&I sector. So, whether you get private collection, Niagara Region collection for organics, or for recycling, or if there's a combination, then I think you should be able to pick multiple options. So if you can just if you can just select your option there. And then we'll go to, if I can pull up the results.
I have examples of text as well, but I should get the breakdown of.
Shelley, can you see the results yet? Mine's still loading. Or Blair?
I don't see them. I wondered if I needed to stop sharing.
I don't think so. If you click on polls. Maybe we can let Blair keep going while we let those results flow in. So just pick your option, or pick whatever applies to you, and then click click submit. Oh, I've got my results up here. So most of you use private collection for garbage, it looks like, is the larger, and then some others as well. So that's awesome. And we'll have a few other poll questions throughout, just to generate some discussion at the end. Go ahead, Blair.
Great, thanks, Katrina. So what is a waste management strategic plan, and why does Niagara Region need one? We're going to dive into this here on the next slide. So some of you may have been involved in waste management strategic planning in the past, either in the municipality that you reside in or work in. But really, a waste management strategic plan is a document that's going to help guide Niagara Region over a defined time period. In this case, it's over the next 25 years. And it's really there to develop innovative ways that will divert, as much garbage as possible from the landfill, and reduce the environmental footprint of the region's waste management operations. We know that the population of Niagara Region continues to grow. And as that population continues to grow, that waste management strategic plan is really a critical step for the region in order to support things like circular economy, reducing the environmental footprint of the waste management operations, and seeking to achieve that net zero emissions by 2050. So from a growing region perspective, we know as of 2022 that the region's population was just under 500,000, right? About 496,000. And we know that it's predicted that the region's going to grow from a population perspective to about just under 700,000 people by 2051, and that includes over 272,000 jobs. So we've got lots of people living in the region and lots of people working in the region over the years to come, decades to come. And that region has set a target that 60% of all growth would be accommodated through intensification and higher densities, right? And that's a focus that comes from both the regional planning level as well as the provincial government, right? You might be familiar with things like Build More Homes Faster, the Greater Golden Horseshoe Growth Plan. All of those planning elements focus on population increases, but not just the increase themselves, but where those populations might be situated and how they're going to be housed, and that's typically through higher densities, more than your traditional single family. So part of those growth areas are really focused on some of the strategic growth areas, and that includes downtown areas in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Welland, around transportation hubs like the existing GO stations and future GO station in Lincoln, and also in the South Niagara Falls Regional Growth Center. So what happens when you have this population increase and growth? Well, that intensification means more waste per capita, right? And as we see a higher density type of housing, like multi-residential buildings, those are typical areas or a typical housing type that can be challenging to manage. If we look at some of the stats on diversion rates, as an example, single-family homes do a really, really good job in comparison to multi-residential, and there's specific reasons around that. We can talk a little bit about that. Next slide, please. So from a national waste trend perspective, we're seeing some interesting trends across Canada with respect to the type and the volume of waste and garbage that we're putting out. So some high level points to raise here. Average Canadian household produces about 79 kilograms of food waste per year, and 60% of our household food waste is that avoidable type, right? That material that can go into or can be diverted and processed. E-waste is on the rise, certainly, which I would suspect is no surprise to all of us who have iPads and iPhones and et cetera. So in total, the annual e-waste generation has gone from about 250,000 tons in the year 2000 to 950,000 tons in 2020, and the projections are about 1.2 million tons by 2030. So significant increase from that baseline of the year 2000. It's also estimated that 1.3 million tons of used or used apparel or waste are being generated, from a textile perspective. So about 76% of that is going to landfill. So another significant piece of the waste pie, if you will. And finally, the construction and demolition waste sector generates about 1/3 of the total solid waste in Canada. So that's equal to more than about 4 million tons of waste per year, and approximately 80% of that is going to landfill as well. So while these are national trends, they certainly are reflective or affect us locally as well, and we'll be considering this as part of the region's strategy. Next slide, please. So some of you may be familiar with the strategy for waste-free Ontario. This was developed, back in about 2016, and sets the goals for the province that you can see here on the slide. But another reason why the region is developing a strategy is to really respond to or incorporate the provincial government's targets to divert 80% of waste from landfills by 2050. And although the province has developed this target, it's really municipalities that have been charged with achieving this goal. There are some elements built into the strategy with respect to the province picture as a whole, right? So municipal, but IC&I as well. But a lot of this falls on and has typically in the past fallen on municipalities. So where do we go from here? In terms of looking at the future, we want to understand the current state of waste management. So we have that baseline in order to work from and launch into the different types of tactics and strategies that may be deployed. So what you can see here on this slide is how Niagara Region works with the local area municipalities, the province of Ontario, and third-party contracts and partnerships. So really, from a provincial perspective, they set the targets and the legislation, like the strategy or the growth goals and strategy for population increases and the housing types that trickle down right to municipalities. The province also runs some of the diversion programs, like hazardous materials, tires, and obviously the residential recycling through the Blue Box transition. Another key piece is that third-party contract side of things. As an example, Walker provides long-term waste disposal at their facility for the region. And there's also two collection contractors, Miller Waste and GFL. Finally, Niagara works with community partners on diversion programs, and that includes things like special events recycling, organics collection, textile diversion from multi-residential buildings is another key one as well. Next slide, please. So for residential customers' perspective, Niagara Region offers collection services to over 495,000 people living in primarily low-density residential, but there are multi-residential properties that are serviced as well in about 205,000 households across the region. And Niagara also provides, or Niagara Region provides, a curbside collection in all regions of the area, and that includes in urban areas as well as rural. And you can see the split in terms of the residential customers for each local area municipality. That's here on the slide as well. Our next slide looks at the IC&I, or industrial, commercial, and institutional customers. So Niagara Region offers collection services for about 7,400 properties within that industrial, commercial, and institutional sector. Similarly, you can see the breakdown with the local area municipalities here on the screen as well. IC&I properties, I should mention, are defined as being lower than 3 stories. They're eligible for collection, but if they choose to do so, right, which is an important point. IC&I properties that are either not eligible, so greater than 3 stories, or choose IC&I properties that are not eligible or choose to have their waste collected by private contractors may engage in that and may have diversion if that is offered by the private contractor to those dwellings. Niagara Region collects from all types of businesses, and that includes restaurants, retail, medical buildings, schools, and some manufacturing facilities as well, just to paint the picture in terms of what that IC&I perspective covers. Next slide, please. So some of you would be familiar with diversion rates, but we want to make sure that we're covering this off for everyone in the audience. So a diversion rate is the percentage of waste that's diverted from landfills relative to the total waste disposed and diverted. So, in essence, the higher the diversion rate, the better, as it means that more of what is found in the garbage isn't otherwise reusable or recyclable. So from 2011 to 2022, region's really been able to increase the amount of residential waste that's being diverted from landfills and increase the amount of recycling and organics diversion. And one of the key drivers for that success was when the region switched to bi-weekly or every other week garbage collection. All right, and you can see on here the change from 2019 to 2022 from 55%, to 61%. Next slide, please. So again, highlighting some of the current state or existing conditions. What are the collection services offered today? So Niagara Region has made some changes to the collection services in the last few years, but today Niagara Region offers these collection services to residential and IC&I as mentioned previously. From an IC&I perspective, just to give that overview, so it's 4 bags of garbage per week, and that's inside designated business areas. It's 8 bags every other week outside of designated business areas, and there's weekly recycling and organics collection. From a residential perspective, you got 2 bags of garbage per household every other week, right, on that bi-weekly that we just mentioned, and up to 24 containers for multi-residential. And similarly, we've got weekly organics and leaf and yard waste. Recycling has been moved outside of the region's purview with the Blue Box transition. That happened January 1st, 2024, and that service is now provided by Circular Materials Ontario. Some of the local area municipalities offer enhanced services to their residents that are provided by Niagara Region on their behalf, and that includes things like public space litter and public space recycling bin collection, containerized garbage collection for IC&I and multi-residential properties in some areas, and additional garbage container limits or collection frequency in some areas for both IC&I and multi-residential properties. And it's really on a case-by-case or local agreement basis. Next slide. So we talked about population and number of households serviced and businesses serviced and the types of collection. But what's the current waste composition, right? Which is another key element of the setting the base or the current state in the region. So you can see on this slide here for both residential and IC&I that the garbage makes up the largest portion of the waste managed in Niagara Region. 41% and 62% respectively for residential and IC&I. But a noticeable difference is that not as much food waste is diverted from the waste stream in the IC&I sector. A lot of that food waste ends up in the waste stream, mixed in with garbage. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity to increase the diversion rate, particularly from using that as an example. Next slide. So where does the curbside waste go? We mentioned already, waste is collected at the curbside, but there are drop-off facilities as well within the region. After it's processed, garbage is sent to one of the region's landfills or to Walker's Thorold landfill. Recycling, organics, leaf and yard waste is processed, and then it's sold to outside parties. And any contamination within the organics or recycling is obviously separated out, and that ultimately goes to landfill as well. Next slide. So waste diversion programs. In addition to the collection services that we've already talked about, Niagara Region also manages and promotes waste diversion programs that are not part of the curbside collection services. We mentioned earlier some of these programs are mandated by the province, like recycling programs for batteries, tires, hazardous materials, special products. But other programs, including textile recycling programs for multi-residential properties, a bicycle recycling program in partnership with Broken Spoke, and reusable goods drop-off depots are all run in Niagara Region in partnership with local nonprofit organizations. So wanted to highlight some of those other waste diversion programs in the region as well. A big piece as well on the system in general is, that education and outreach, or sometimes referred to as P&E, right? Promotion and education, but also on the enforcement side of things, right? So education, outreach, and enforcement. These are all things that Niagara Region staff have in the toolbox and provide ongoing outreach and communication, certainly to help the community learn about the different service offerings, but also for compliance with the waste management system. Things like presentations on waste reduction, reuse, and recycling at schools and service clubs. At special events, there's an opportunity for dialogue at those special events from a recycling and organics side of things, while also providing that service. So it's a good example of being there in the community, providing the service, and then having that opportunity to have the dialogue on the importance of the diversion. Booths at community events is another one. Certainly awareness campaigns are a key piece as well. You see those pop up from time to time on things like illegal dumping and the green bin program, specifically what's in, what's out, and then other type events like Community Waste Reduction Week, Earth Week, and participating in things like compost giveaway events, right? A key piece on this is you've got users of the system, they're participants and active participants. So how can the region engage with the users of the system to provide that additional support, guidance, and education when needed? So we're coming to the tail end. That's kind of the broad strokes on the existing system. But getting back to the waste management strategic plan, what are we looking at including in the waste management strategic plan? So the strategic plan is going to look at whether the region should implement new programs or provide new services, right? So again, start with the existing baseline on what's being provided to date, and look at what are some of the potential programs, policies, tactics that could be implemented in order to achieve some of the goals that are going to be established as part of the waste management strategic plan as well. Starting with looking at what are a review, right, of the existing programs and services. What's working well, what isn't, what could be changed incrementally, et cetera. I mean, a good example is the change to every other week collection, right? As an example of what's working well, and we can you can definitely look at tweaking some of the programs slightly as well as part of this process. Another key element we're going to be looking at is alternative technology. So, energy from waste for material that currently goes to landfill. And then, definitely need to take a look at the operational side of things. So looking at the system as a whole from an operations perspective, that could be things like the vehicle fleet and staffing as examples. Quick reminder as well too, right? Niagara Region is no longer responsible for the blue or gray box programs. So the strategy is not really going to look at anything to do with that component, or really have any recommendations given the transition that's taken place earlier this year. Next slide, please.
I'm just going to jump in, Blair, because I got a message in the Q&A from
Sure.
Matthew that he can no longer see the slides. Is there anybody else that can't see the slides? Maybe just raise your hand if you cannot see the slides. Matthew, I'm going to let you go on mute if you want. Are you not able to see them?
Yeah, I can't see the slides. Shelley Reed was sharing them, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just showing nothing for me.
Is there, just going back to the Q&A. I can still see them.
I can as well, Katrina.
Okay. Sorry, Matthew. Hopefully it sounds.
Yeah, I'll try
Yeah.
logging out and logging back in. Maybe
Yeah,
that'll help.
yeah. It seems like it's not anyone else. We're also recording this as well, so
Okay.
so you'll be able to listen back to the recording. Sorry about that.
No worries. My apologies for the disruption.
No worries. Go ahead, Blair.
Not a problem. That's why we're here. It's all good. So the strategic plan itself, as Jennifer mentioned off the top, so GHD are working on this with Municipal View, with the region. And we've really broken it into the strategic plan into 3 different phases. So phase 1, which is where we are now in the project, we're really going out and engaging, right, with stakeholders, with the public, specific sectors like such as yourselves on the IC&I side of things, with environmental groups, with NGOs, the education sector, and provincial ministries. And obviously as well with the local area municipalities within the region and their councils and the region's council as well. So what we're trying to uncover specifically in this phase is, how does the community view the current waste management system and the programs, right? We talked about their key players, key participants in the system, right? So hearing that feedback on the current waste system and programs is important. And what we want to do is identify any key issues or concerns, maybe some opportunities that the community has or wants to put forward, so that we can get some additional insight into the community's vision. What are their wants and desires, goals, and objectives for the waste management system in Niagara region. That's phase 1. In phase 2, which we're looking at starting in June, that's where we're really going to take some of that feedback that we've received and present the vision, the goals, and guiding principles, as well as recommendations for things like waste processing alternatives and technology options. And that's all going to be based on the feedback that we've received from the community in phase 1, right? And so we're going to be looking at I can call it a longer list or a suite, right, of waste options, broadly speaking, grouped in certain buckets in terms of processing, system, and diversion, that sort of thing. And then in the final phase of the project, phase 3, we'll kind of take everything that we've learned and we'll put that into a draft strategic plan document, and share it with the community for feedback. Part of that strategic plan will be, how do you put the plan into practice? What are the tactics in order to make this actionable? Because we want to make sure that what's being recommended, it can be implemented. And what are the means of implementing? The worst thing is you can have a plan that you develop, and it gathers dust on a shelf because the implementation aspects aren't there. And we want to make sure that this is an actionable and implementable plan. So once that strategy is finalized, we're going to present that final document to council for their approval, and then staff will work to implement the recommendations in the strategic plan. So throughout the duration of the project, we really want to encourage you and other participants to be involved. Visit Niagara Region's website and sign up to receive updates specifically on the plan, and look for dates for future engagement. I'll close with the last slide here on the vision, guiding principles, and goals. So now that we've kind of talked about the waste management strategic plan in general and why there's that need to develop it, let's talk about the first thing that we're going to tackle, and that's really to develop and produce a vision statement. Something that we can aspire to, that's going to drive the strategic plan forward. We're going to work with creating a list of guiding principles, as you can see, kind of moving down the list on the slide. And those guiding principles are going to help us when we refer to making decisions about the waste management system, right? We want to make sure that we've got those guiding principles for a bounding exercise around those options and decisions. We'll set some goals after that as well, and those are really specific things that we want to achieve, right, in the next 25 years. As an example, like increasing the diversion rate. And then finally, we're going to identify the new or the changes to the existing waste management system, right? The programs, the services, the initiatives that are ultimately going to help us achieve the goals and thereby achieve the overarching vision. So some of the feedback that you're going to provide today is really going to help us to draft that initial vision statement and the accompanying goals and guiding principles. So we're going to move now to another poll question, and I'll turn that back over to Katrina.
Yeah, thanks, Blair. So we've got 2 more poll questions, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A as well, in case you have specific questions. So the second poll question is, we're interested, and Heidi, if you can launch that poll, we're interested to hear from you, what aspect of the strategy are you most interested in? So Blair talked about how, we start with the vision, guiding principles and goals. So what's that over, what are we aspiring to? We'll set specific targets as well. And then in terms of the different programs and services and what will be included in the strategic plan, certainly we'll be looking at collections and drop off, organics management, so how are organics being processed, waste and energy recovery, so that's a residual management, what's happening with the right now everything is going to the landfill. Should Niagara Region consider some kind of energy recovery as part of that? Innovative and emerging technologies, financing strategies, promotion education, and then everyone's favorite thing, usually, regulation, policies, and bylaws. So just looking at the results here, looks like we've got 3 responses. So if you could just pick whichever one kind of speaks to you the most, whatever you're most interested in, mostly on organics management, programs, collection programs, and the objectives and targets. One person likes regulation, so that's good. Glad to hear that. And then, so actually, it looks like we've got all the responses there, a lot on organics management, so that's interesting, because I think that'll be a focus for us, for sure. If we go to the next slide, Shelley, and Heidi, if you can open the next poll. So thinking about the vision and what Niagara Region should aspire to, again, really just a quick gut check from you. I know a lot of you are intimately knowledgeable about the waste management system in Niagara. What do you think we should be focusing on? What do you think we should be doing? Won't hold you to this. I think you can only pick one, but really just, from your gut, what do you think we should be focusing on? Is it more about behavior change, food waste, Should we be like really ambitious and set a zero waste target? Emerging technologies, economic growth, more about fostering community partnerships and affordability. So we've got some good responses there. A little bit across the board, encouraging behavior change. I see zero waste, eliminating food waste, local economic growth as well, and conserving landfill space. So that's great to get that perspective. So thank you for providing your input on that. If we can go to the next slide, please, Shelley. So we've got about 20 minutes for open Q&A. I will, before I go to that, I'll just draw your attention to the 2 QR codes on the slide. There is an online survey that we have at this stage as well. Questions are very similar to the topics that we've talked about today. So there's one specifically for the residents and one for the ICNI sector. We just checked this morning, we've got over 200 responses for the residential survey, which is fantastic. We've only got about 12 for the ICNI, so I would encourage you to go on and check that out. It'll be open until the end of the month, so the link is there, or you can use the QR code. And let me just go to our Q&A. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but I do see a hand up. So Samir, I am going to go to you. You should be able to unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Thanks. Yeah. So my name is Samir Hasik. I'm with the City of St. Catharines Economic Development Department. I just figured it might be easier to just to speak as opposed to typing in my questions or comments. But just to give you a bit of background, I work with the Economic Development Department. The focus of my work is with specifically downtown businesses, downtown St. Catharines. I noticed that in the presentation, downtown St. Catharines was mentioned as an area of interest. So I guess my first part of my question is, what consideration there will be for downtowns across the board, but I think downtown St. Catharines specifically, given that it is the urban growth center for Niagara. It's been provincially designated as such. And so as a result, there's intensification targets for downtown residential developments that are either online or forthcoming, as well as business investment and that sort of thing. So one of the common complaints that we get through our office is surrounding enforcement. So a lot of illegal dumping that takes place because it's an enhanced service area. You get people who own, for example, multiple properties that bring their waste into the downtown, and other similar sorts of abuses of the system, I guess, that take place. So I don't know if that's a question or if that's a comment, but it's an area of importance that that gets brought forward to us by businesses as well as our BIA. And then in terms of diversion as well, I see that that diversion is a high priority. I'm wondering if there's any interest in partnering with local businesses on diversion strategies or helping assist businesses with I guess incentivizing diversion. So one of the things that you mentioned is fast fashion, for example. I know in our downtown we have a number of different thrift shops and secondhand stores and things like that could assist with diversion. Businesses that work in recycling other products. Like we work with a business that produces baked goods with spent grains from breweries as well. So things like that. Like what are some ways that we can work together with businesses to help with that diversion. So I hope I haven't said too much, but those are my general comments. Thanks.
That's fantastic, and that's the exact type of input that I think that we're looking for today. When you started asking your question, I was going to put the question back on you and say, well, what do you think should happen? So I'm glad that you I'm glad that you went there. So I heard I'll let Blair and Jennifer and Sherry jump in if they'd like, but what I heard was issues around illegal dumping, and it sounded like not just illegal dumping as in like throwing things where they shouldn't be, but kind of manipulating the system and disposing of waste in areas that you shouldn't, or different properties where you shouldn't, and partnerships as well. So expanding that partnership program, which I think there are already partnerships, but looking at other types of partnership programs as well. So I think that those are certainly on the radar in terms of those types of things that we're going to look at. But I think those are really good specific suggestions as well. Blair, Sherry, or Jennifer, anything to add to that?
I'll just jump in quickly. I mean, yeah, Samir, thanks for the feedback. I mean, exactly echoing what Katrina mentioned, right? That's why we're here is to listen and get some of those thoughts. So it's fantastic. I'd say certainly there will be challenges, right, with the intensification and higher densities, right, and moving more people into that traditionally challenging area for diversion participation, right, in the multi-res, but it's also an opportunity, right? And it's an opportunity from the perspective of setting things up early on, right, before even a development gets that shovels in the ground, right? How can you have the right infrastructure in place with multi-res, and then have in tandem some additional promotion and education, right? And certainly there are always those cases on kind of people taking advantage of the system, as you mentioned, right? And so there's some things that can come into play there with promotion, education, and enforcement, right, as tools in the toolbox. It's really it will be an opportunity, I think, to look at what are some of the partnerships that may exist as well, right, with BIAs, with other businesses. Certainly that's something that the region will be looking at as part of the strategy is what are some of the other partnerships that may be established to help assist, so that businesses and the region and the participants are all engaged in the goals that are established. Jennifer, Sherry, anything else?
No, I think I see other hands up, so I'll let we'll continue hearing comments.
Sure.
Great. Before I go to the next hand, Matthew put a good question in the chat, which I think maybe Sherry hopefully can answer, or at least speak to. Matthew asks, has the responsibility change moving recycling management to a private collection organization impacted the region's waste goals, positive or negative? Sherry or Jennifer, that's a challenging question. Can you answer that?
Yeah, so I think, just a broad statement overall, the movement, the transition of the Blue Box, the residential piece to SEMO has gone relatively seamless and smoothly. There hasn't been any sort of major concerns. We have, Miller and GFL continuing to collect, and, they continue to be great partners with us as well. I think the challenge, obviously, with us no longer being responsible for the residential recycling program is, typically we've used diversion rate, as one of our goals. And recycling, it was a big piece of that diversion. So moving forward, if we don't have access to that data, we'll have to look at, other ways to measure success, of our goals if we don't have access to that data. So, the regulation, the Blue Box regulation has some, good targets that the producers need to meet for the Blue Box. So we're hopeful that we'll see more recycling diverted. It's just, it won't be part of our system. So we'll have to look at other ways to measure success.
Good point. Thanks, Sherry. I'll go to Stephanie next.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, but I am going to leave my camera off.
No worries.
I have a comment and then I would like to follow it up with a question. So I was really happy to hear, you know, you comment mentioning that you want to work with the business community, and I'm here representing a business improvement area in the town of Lincoln. Oddly enough, however, I managed to get on the email list for this session today. Was great because I was able to forward it to 2 other BIAs that did attend, but there are 15 BIAs across Niagara region. So I would really, really think or like you to consider maybe reaching out to us and getting the entire list of our contacts, because we are in constant communication with, you know, over 100 businesses. I'm over 100 and I'm one of the smallest ones. So you can imagine if you worked with, you know, the executive directors of BIAs, how we can manage to get these surveys out to our businesses, because we have those direct membership communication lines. Now, a lot of our communications go out on a monthly basis, which is at the beginning of the month. So this particular survey may have missed that with your deadline closing May 31st. However, perhaps some of them would be able to send it out as like a special piece, because I really think it's important to get the business community's feedback on this. So that's my personal plea, to work directly with the 15 BIAs across Niagara region. So we can go offline if you want, if you're looking for more contacts on that, because I'm pretty sure, and I'm so grateful I received it, but I'm not sure all the other ones would have. I know, as I mentioned, there are 2 others. There's Lundy's Lane and downtown St. Catharines on this call today as well. So that's my one comment. And then my question, although it has nothing to do with the business improvement area, it's just sincere curiosity being a Niagara regional resident. When you showed the slide that had the percentages, the breakdown in the region of the most waste, and then specifically in the ICI sector, I live in Niagara Falls, so I was curious, and I'm assuming that all the kind of tourist places in Niagara Falls have private collection, and maybe, like, I would have thought that Niagara Falls actually would have had the most waste based on the amount of tourists in the season, not St. Catharines. So I'm just curious, even if they have the private collection, does that get accounted into our landfills, or how does that work?
Yeah, so let's address your first comment first, and thank you for flagging that. I think absolutely we can take that discussion offline, and hopefully there is still the opportunity to send that out and get that feedback. There'll also be other engagement opportunities, right, later in the year. There is the first public open house is tonight, but then there's another one next week as well. So there's the survey, and then if you know that the one for the public is more meant for residents, but everybody is welcome. So I think businesses can have the opportunity to join that one as well, if we can get the word out. So yeah, I think the team will maybe connect with you offline on that. In terms of the breakdown of IC and I, actually, Shelley, you might want to go back to that slide. That is one more, that one. You're talking about this slide?
Yes.
Yeah, this is, Blair or Jennifer can correct me, but this is just the IC&I sector that Niagara region collects from.
So the properties is the property breakdown. Yeah, not the tons. It's the properties breakdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I will go to Rachel next.
Hi there, thank you. And apologies, I don't know how I got my hand up twice. I wasn't meaning to push in line. But I just wanted to raise a couple things, and I'm grateful for the 2 first people that asked questions, because they echoed, or I'd echo a lot of what the items they mentioned. A couple of other things I'd love to kind of bring up, and is representative for downtown St. Catharines BIA. We have over 700 members, so 500 businesses, so a huge portion of that pie chart. So I know a lot of my guys have garbage issues because we hear it on a very daily basis, but often don't have time for surveys or online meetings and so forth. So we tend to be a bit of a collective, and then we share that feedback. So just a couple quick little things to bring up. The one challenge that we have in our downtown is we have commercial plus second floor, third floor residential. And the gap is we have a fantastic commercial pickup schedule, which is, I believe, 4 times a week. The residents don't have that pickup schedule, but they don't know they don't have that pickup schedule. So they put their garbage out every day of the week because they think it's picked up every day of the week. And then luckily the municipality does cleanups every day, every morning to pick up the garbage bags that are out every single night. So the education piece is key for any changes I find, and especially that gap between residential commercial is a big hurdle. And we're very grateful for the support the city provides with that additional pickup, but it is a challenge. The other things that I've seen that work well, so we have the cardboard bins too in our downtown, which are a fantastic resource, super well used. We have, I think, 4 or 5 of them. So definitely really support that service and would love to see that kept up. We hear a lot of concerns and challenges too with regards to green bin use, mainly in terms of where are they going to keep the green bin and where do they clean it? We all know green bins can be absolutely disgusting, and a lot of our businesses don't have access to either an outside tap, or if they do, it's right at the front of their building. And if they're a restaurant, they're not going to want to clean maggots out of a green bin in front of their restaurant. So if there's any way to add a cleaning service to green bins, or to do an exchange service for the green bin infrastructure, I think that would make that service a lot more usable. Also, we see a huge amount of bins getting stolen. Both any type of bin, you name it, it gets stolen, unfortunately. And that's a big expense for our businesses because then they have to replace them themselves. So I don't know if there's any creative ways we can come up with. I mean, some of our guys have asked about taking the wheels off the wheelie bins, but then they've been told, well, then they can't be emptied because they can't wheel them to the truck. So there's a lot of challenges like that that are preventing our businesses from doing what they really want to do, which is divert waste. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, and sorry for hogging a little bit here, is just if there's any way to also look at in-ground containers. So a couple of our restaurants have mullock containers, which have been quite successful. They tend to not become dumping areas because people aren't as familiar with them being bins, and they're not rifled through as much. We don't see bags split open. Obviously they can't get stolen. So it is just a very efficient method of garbage disposal that we've seen, and didn't know if there's a possibility for that to be implemented more widespread.
That's great feedback. Yeah, I'll let Sherry or Jennifer jump in if they want to comment on any of that. But I didn't mention this, but we're obviously taking notes today, and capturing all this feedback. What I will say as well, appreciate that not everybody has time or the inclination to do a survey. So if you go on, I will also accept feedback by email, of course. So if there's other things that come up with your membership or other comments that you have that you think of after this meeting, if you go onto the website, and I'll drop a link in the Q&A, there's an email button, email Waste Management Strategic Plan. Just drop us an email, and it will take feedback that way as well. But yeah, I think that's the exact type of feedback that we're looking for at this stage. Shelley, can you go back to the Q&A slide? I don't see any other hands up. I'm just going to drop the link in the Q&A here so that you guys have that. Any other questions? Yeah, Rachel, go ahead.
Sorry, again, I can talk forever if you like.
We're here.
For feedback. was just with regards to the public waste receptacles, and I don't know if they're part of this study or not. Forgive me, I might have missed that. But the ones, and I don't know if infrastructure, I think infrastructure may be different based on the municipality. But the infrastructure that we have for our public waste receptacles, to me, is not. We get a lot of feedback from staff that are emptying them that they're very hard to empty because they're just a big bin. They've got to pull out the top of the garbage and then empty it. So it's health and safety wise, it's not ideal. I didn't know if part of this study would include the public bins and if the region would provide a recommended infrastructure for public bins or not.
I can jump in on that one, Katrina. Yeah, so it is up to the local municipalities to select what type of bin they're using, and we then, tell the contractor when we, do our collection contract that these are the type of bins and that you have to collect. So it is, we don't tell local municipalities what type of bin, but it is something for feedback. I know it's something at the, the region we look at, is there best practices for bins, and maybe that's something we can kind of take back as part of this. But it is something obviously that the local municipalities, since they are purchasing the bins and putting them out, that they would have to agree to. But like you said, maybe it's something, we can look as part of the strategy of, what are some of the best practices, and can we work with the LAMs to get those implemented if possible.
Great, thanks, Sherry. Any other questions or thoughts or comments, feedback, suggestions, complaints, praise? We'll take all of it. We're at 12 o'clock now, but I wanted to make sure that if anybody else had anything that we were able to stay on. But I don't see any other hands up, and I don't see anything else in the Q&A. So I think we can close it there. But again, just a reminder, there is going to be a quick poll at the end here. Heidi, you can go ahead and launch that. We just would like to know what you thought of the open house today, if it was informative, if you learned what you thought you needed to learn, able to provide feedback. We would certainly appreciate that input. And just as a reminder that there is public open house tonight, public open house next Wednesday evening as well. And then a sector-specific open house for NGOs and the school boards, such as school board staff or teachers. Lots of ways to provide feedback, whether it's at one of those or filling out the survey or just dropping us an email with your input. Really appreciate everybody hearing that. Thank you again.
Katrina, sorry,
yeah.
Just to jump in. There's just a comment that the link it wasn't working. I think we're just missing the N on plan in the link. If you don't mind reposting that again in the chat for everyone.
I guess I must have. Let me just do that.
Thanks for pointing that out, Samir.
There you go. Does that one work?
Works for me.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Blair. And thanks everyone for joining. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.